Welcome back to the Marketer's Guide to the AI Galaxy, where we cut through the hype, debunk the BS, and help you figure out what's really going on with AI.
And today we have a special guest joining us who really knows his stuff. So that's Piotr Bombol from Daily, who has been developing actual AI solutions to marketing and strategy problems. And yeah, as always, to get ready for this, we set Piotr a little challenge, mainly to bring us the biggest AI myths he hears all the time, especially the ones that put people in the wrong directions and set the record straight about what's really going on.
So, no fluff, no fear, just straight up truth. So, Piotr, over to you. What are some of the AI myths or non myths that are kind of driving you a little bit mad right now?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, and thanks for the invitation. I think there's less and less myths, which is quite interesting because for the last 2 to 3 years we've been hearing so much misconception about AI and people believing in stuff they've heard and not having their own personal experience, so just repeating what others say. Right now, the more I talk with people, and I talk with a lot of agencies and in-house marketing teams, I think most of them, they have their own personal experience, and it's less about the myths, but the things that they like or don't like. But it's more rooted in the truth how things work. So people may say that they really hate when ChatGPT makes stuff up, which is not a myth. It's a fact. It
Fact.
happens, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's maybe it's slightly fading, but in general it still exists. So I feel that people have more their own personal experience, and this is what drives the adoption for this specific case. It's not about what others say. And we even recently OpenAI started to talk about the weekly usage of ChatGPT. And I think the last time they mentioned this year in the spring, it was 500 million people every week. So, I think we should, right now, we should just assume that most white collar workers already have experience with AI. So it's more their own point of view rather than just myths. And this is going to drive the adoption. Like, what's their experience with AI? Also, because people assume everything is like ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
they start to make this as a benchmark for evaluating everything else, asking, is it as bad as ChatGPT, or is it better than ChatGPT, because ChatGPT can be good in some way? So this is something that I hear all the time, which is a little bit more convenient because you don't need to explain this is AI, but this is like ChatGPT, but we have this is better, this is different, right?
I think that's great. And like such, and so interesting just in the fact of like, yeah, the more people adopt it, the fewer misconceptions they are because just as they get used to it. But just to kind of, what I'd love to do is just interrogate that one a little bit and be like, if people are with more people using Chat GPT as a benchmark, and yeah, I mean, as we saw over the weekend, whole countries now being
Yeah.
able to use the premium version of Chat GPT. What do you think people are likely to get wrong do you think people are likely to make like specific mistakes as they use it?
When I thought about the myths, probably the number one myth that I would say, which still maybe right now is not that it's not that common anymore, but the feeling that you need to know how to prompt to use the AI properly is something that is the number one myth, or has been my number one myth that I've been hearing all the time. And definitely the way you use different AI tools, especially the large language models, interfaces in the form of ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on, the biggest influence on your experience has the way you approach these tools. And I know most people just treat them as a very simple tools where they give them a very vague, task and expect something great to happen because this is how it's supposed to work. And this is why a lot of people get discouraged. But I think there's like the situation is presented the wrong way, because a lot of people, a lot of AI experts, as they call themselves, they say that the way to get better is you need to learn prompts, and then you become prompt engineer, and you're becoming future-proofing your career, and you're becoming the best person on earth, which I don't feel is the right way to approach the situation, because it's more about how the AI system can start producing tools for people who will still use these vague tasks for AI, and they will get value back. Because how can we expect to change how people operate so they adjust themselves to the tools? The tools should adjust to the people. And I wouldn't blame someone for having almost um, no patience for AI, because you open ChatGPT, you put a simple, vague, task description and click send, and this is because how your life looks like. Like, you might be overburdened, you're in a hurry, you need stuff to do, and like you're not going to learn prompting and start becoming an expert in AI because you just don't have time for it, you don't have need for it, or you don't have will for it. So it's more about changing this point of view of AI, you becoming an AI expert, and this is the only way to adopt AI massively, to how the creators of AI tools can adjust to the people's real behavior that we can hear all about right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I sometimes forget personally that just people view a tool like, say, Chat GPT or Claude from they have a different like starting point and things like that. Like, for me, I know that I will not take, if I input something, I might not take that output as like
Definitely.
truth. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like a conversation. But I do, for example, I see my husband, his sense of maybe AI adoption is a little bit, I'm not behind, but it's, he may take it as something differently. And it's, so it is, yeah, everyone has a different starting point. And I do see, for example, I like, maybe my coworkers or other marketers, I get, like, I have my own frustrations with it. It's like, don't just, remember ChatGPT is prone to hallucinations and things like that. But yeah, I think everyone is absolutely is different, rooted in their own experiences and stuff like that. So I think maybe how we approach AI adoption, maybe has to be handled a little bit differently. And I agree. I mean, maybe we can't expect everyone to be an expert in prompt engineering. Everyone doesn't have the time for that. So yeah, I mean, I think,
Like, this is the same, like we don't expect people to be good at maths to use Excel, right?
yes,
It's
that's
the
true.
opposite, in fact. It's the
Yeah.
opposite. So this is, I think, how, like, this hype for AI just distorted people's experience of building software for, I don't know, 50 years already. Like, people just stopped doing the things how they've been done, and they figured out, okay, so maybe let's make a chatbot because people like chatbots. No, they don't like chatbots, right?
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they want something that works for them, for the specific situation, and it doesn't require them to think too much and focus too much, because they have other stuff to do. And like, this is, as a builder of AI tool, this is key element of like what I've learned from people and how we try to curate the experience. And I know that different tools try different things, because it's still not solved. Like, how do people use AI in advertising? We don't know. How do people use AI in finance? We don't know. We really don't know. And one thing that I think a lot of people learned already is that ChatGPT is not a perfect benchmark, because a lot of builders and a lot of experts been focusing too much on ChatGPT, and yes, they are the leader, but they are also experimenting. They don't know stuff either.
Right.
And the one way to experience it yourself is visit ChatGPT every day and see what changes. Some things are reverted because they don't work, and they are also experimenting, and everyone is experimenting. We cannot count on, like, assuming that ChatGPT has everything figured out. No, everyone is trying to figure it out, and I think what we already see, like the biggest adoption, or how which tools get the most interest and most traction, is the ones that are not behaving as AI tools at all.
Hmm.
And they have very low entry barriers. They have no prompting at all. There's no customization, which is like, I hear it sometimes, like people ask me, oh, why don't you add customization? Like, let users control temperature. And, most people don't know what temperature is, and they don't care what temperature is. And like, I feel that AI is already such a burden, and people are so stressed already about AI. Like, you don't need to fuel this up, right?
Yeah.
And I know, after, like, showing the new version of our product, even today I heard, like, I was doing a demo, and it was she was a creative director at social media agency, and she said, like, I'm really excited and terrified at the same time. And I feel that this mix is becoming more and more common. So we don't even need to add anything else to this. It's already too much, right?
Yeah.
People were trying to figure it out, like, how should they behave in this current world? Like, should they, what skills do they need looking into the future? We don't even need to, like, give them anything else, to think about, to worry about.
No, I think that no, thanks so much for sharing that. I think that is, yeah, such a such an incisive view into like where all of this is headed. And I think especially all the points around ChatGPT being used as a benchmark. Because I mean, I'd love to hear a bit more about like with ChatGPT being used as a benchmark, how does that impact tools like yours? Like, do people want it to be more different or more similar to ChatGPT almost, would you say?
Yeah. This is probably like one of the biggest debates of advertising, like what's the relevancy and differentiation
Yes.
scale for what you do, right? So, like, where do you place yourself? So I think it's quite similar here. So, like, there's are some things which you can refer to when you talk about, okay, so we have this AI tool, and this is in this way similar, and this way completely different than ChatGPT. What we already know as a society is that ChatGPT can hallucinate, yes. It can give you things that are not useful right away, like, we already mentioned this. Or it starts, to lose the context of the conversation. So, like, it doesn't have the perfect memory, and so on. So, like, you can start talking to people, showing, we have a solution for this problem, because these problems are becoming quite well mapped. And you can start like building on top of it, like, our system is not prone to hallucinations because we found this solution for this, and this is really, it's really working for us and for our other users. But on the other hand, people, like, start to have some expectations about, like, how the AI systems work, and in what do they give them versus other tools. And then you need to be very, I think what I learned to use as approach is just to not say yes to everything, because some people, would love a more conversational interface to be able to talk with something. Some people would love to have more controls, like, maybe change the parameters. And, I know it doesn't work for everyone. Like, you need to start understanding what are the expert use cases, and what are the usual use cases, and like what's the experience, what's the difference of experience. And then there's one other part which I'm like, it's really interesting for me, because there are people who say, I can do everything with AI tools already. What do you offer? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I admit, like, our system is built on top of AI tools and AI APIs. And if you take time, you can create an output that is, on the same level. I understand it and I respect it, because if you're an expert, then you can obviously do it. And this is not something that everyone has. And the only thing that I can say to these people is that we offer you a scale,
Mm.
because yes, you can do you can do something in a couple of hours, but will you be able to do it for 5 projects at the same time? No, because people don't work like this. AI can do it like, simultaneously, right? So this is, I think, coming back to like approach to work, is that if you can do something properly, doesn't mean you need to do it yourself, right?
It's good. Yeah.
That is, I
Valid
think,
question.
especially with all the AI tools that are out there, such a good point. So, no, yeah, I mean, overall, like, yeah, that was absolutely epic. Thank you so much for taking us, yeah, through all that and busting our own myths around like what AI myth busting can look like.
No,
I
appreciate it.
I fear that I won't get another invitation.
No, we definitely I definitely want to have you back because you brought up a really good point. I think we're at the end of the day, I think we're still experimenting. Companies are still trying to figure this out. And just really quickly, I mean, I just can't help but also think slightly off topic, what's happening with Klarna and Duolingo, where, you look at these companies and you think that, hey, leaders have it figured out. They have this like um AI strategy in place that's going to help them scale, that's going to help them grow. But again, we're all figuring it out. I think it's a little bit of backtracking. There's still, a little bit of backlash that's happening. And yeah, so I think we don't have all the answers.
You know,
Definitely.
there are always vanguards of change. Doesn't mean like they know everything and they are
Yes,
correct, but they are providing us with some great thoughts, because how can we learn? The best way to learn is from somebody else's mistakes, right?
exactly.
Yes, yeah,
Exactly.
and your own mistakes too. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think again, let's keep learning, keep figuring out AI, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, thank you so
Thanks
Thank
much
so
you.
for
much.
your
Yeah,
insight.
talk soon.